that guy just said media clowns? You know, I really did like what Michael had to say, and it brings it home for me is I know many people in these audiences. I know that there's Democrats here, Republicans here. I know that there's Oath Keepers here. I know that we span the gamut. There are anarchists, there are lawmakers, there are anarchists dressed up like Republicans here. I mean, all anybody wants here is to find out more about nullification, how we can keep the issues at home, states' rights, and I thank you for coming so that you can take this message and you can go educate your friends about it. Because that's all it is. This is a movement of education. Next up, Bryce Shonka. He's the Deputy Director of the 10th Amendment Center. He and Michael are the ones that make all this happen. Give him a big welcome if you would, please.
This is a real treat. I've been waiting a long time to come visit all of you in the live free or die state. You're all part of something that I like to call the constitutional resistance. We are the resistance in a war that was declared on we the people decades and decades ago, and also declared on the Constitution itself. And despite almost a total lack of mainstream media coverage of this event, y'all came and showed up. You found your way here, so thank you very much for that. We are in a war, and the war is a war of words. It's not necessarily a war of weapons in the traditional sense, but we have modern weapons that we can use in this war. This keyboard right here is a weapon, folks. Some of you know how to use it well. Some of you are just getting started, but everyone can participate in this war using just that tool alone. Now, can you imagine the articles that are going to come out about this event? Some of them are going to be attacking what we are talking about here. Some of them are going to say things like, you know, maybe we hate brown people. Or maybe we are just trying to secede from the Union, which is not the purpose of nullification. But if every person in this room were to set up Google News alerts, and we're aware when this type of article hits the internet, and every single one of you leaves a comment setting the record straight, then every single one of those attack pieces suddenly becomes a valuable educational tool, and that's the kind of thing we need to do to win this war. There's words that we can use. You know, part of what the establishment's been doing is they've been taking words away from us. This word progressive, for instance, with a capital P, I take exception to this word because when I think about what the Founding Fathers did, they didn't set up what they believed to be a perfect government, did they? They understood one thing very, very clearly, and that there's no such thing as a perfect or trustworthy government. What they did was they set up a government that was so shackled by limitations and chains and bonds that it was their best attempt at keeping it in a tightly contained box. Now, we the people have not exactly been following our duty to ensure that the federal government stays within its box, have we? A lot of folks like to get upset at Barack Obama, claiming that if we could just remove him from the White House, then all of our problems will be solved. But that's not really the case, is it? May not be a bad change, sure. But the bottom line is, if we're not going to stand up and take responsibility for our own liberties, no government official, no television pundit, and not even the Constitution itself can do that for you. It is up to us to wage this war and to take back the liberties that our founders fought and died to provide for us. that was kind of created as a way to categorize what we're doing and sort of put us in a box. This is where 10th. Started hearing this from places like the Huffington Post and other supposedly progressive outlets that really didn't know what they were talking about. So we said, you know what? Fine. Yes, I am a 10th. I got a card right here that says 110% 10th, and I wear that badge proudly because, in my opinion, you cannot go to Washington, D.C. and hope to reform it from there. The only thing we're left with now is to band together in our individual states and to draw the line at the state border. Now, one of the things that makes us unique at 10th Amendment Center is, despite some of the pieces that are written about us, we are not a right-wing organization. We're not a left-wing organization. We're not libertarian. We're not anything. We're about freedom and liberty, and we're about the Constitution. So we wind up talking to folks all over the country from very different backgrounds. I've got a liberal organizer in Massachusetts working for the 10th Amendment Center there by the name of Roger Pratt. Very intelligent guy, totally gets it. We've got conservatives in Texas, as you might imagine. We've got libertarians here in New Hampshire. Now there's one thing that all three of these groups have told us that they actually agree on. And that's that these backscatter X-ray machines at every airport in the country are dangerous and we don't want them. The TSA is an unconstitutional federal agency that there is no mandate for in the Constitution. It's not something that should exist. But we can use the TSA to help illustrate a point. And that's that a one-size-fits-all approach to governing 300 million people will never, ever work. 3 weeks ago, on our way to our last event in Cincinnati, Ohio, I was about to be forced through one of these ominous blue machines, and I said, thanks, but no thanks. The TSA gentleman there said, well, you know, the radiation really is lower than... I said, no, I've done my own research, thank you. I'm convinced. I'm not going through that thing. So they brought me along to the side, and I waited for a few minutes. And then I proceeded to have an experience that, under different context, would have made for a really good Saturday night when I was in high school.
Radiation or molestation? What choice?
That's right. So, then the next thing I was left with, my first immediate response was, for our next trip out here to New Hampshire, we said, well, you know what? There's a way to get there that doesn't involve either one of those things. And so, this past Sunday, we got on a train in Los Angeles to arrive in time for the show today. And, yeah. Now, I couldn't vote out that TSA agent's boss. I couldn't take any kind of direct action to remove them from my airport. I couldn't move to a different state where there was no TSA. And this is the problem. With a top-down approach, when bad things are happening, we're all stuck with it. We have no recourse. But there is a recourse, isn't there?
Yeah, hold on.
One of the things that the Texans did, to the surprise of many, was they introduced a bill nullifying body scanners in Texas. They said, no more. We had an article up on this event very quickly, and in 24 hours we had 30,000 people interested enough to take a look. Now these people, 98% of them, had never seen our site before, and they were coming from just about every liberal website you could possibly imagine. Well, the Texans, The Texans are kicking out the federal, what's going on here? What this means, folks, is that this is not a right-wing struggle. It's not a left-wing struggle. It's not a libertarian struggle. It's an average people struggle. And we need to remember that. We need to do away with these words that separate us and divide us. And realize that we have far more in common than we are led to believe by those that would like to keep us divided and occupied with a constant left versus right ping pong battle. Since Texas introduced that bill, there's already been 3 other states that have introduced it. New Jersey, not too far away. Hawaii, very far away. And right here in the Free State. There are some other things that you can support right here in New Hampshire to further the entire cause of nullification, and each and every one of these bills across the country are important because even if they don't pass, they bring more and more exposure to this movement, and when average folks of all political stripes hear about what we are doing, despite the media blackout, they get it, just like you do. Other things in New Hampshire that are going on are Firearms Freedom Act. Of course, we heard about medical marijuana just a minute ago. The Intrastate Commerce Act, which is kind of like the beefier version of firearms freedom. It says anything grown, produced, manufactured, and sold in the state of New Hampshire is hands off to the federal government entirely. You have enough of the feds claiming that the Commerce Clause allows them to reach into every part of your life. Well, the Interstate Commerce Clause is the answer for that. You know, there's another thing going on with our food supply. This is another avenue where we can start to make these events, you know, we start to bring in those folks that are outside with signs right now. Because I'm sure they're opposed to this S510, this supposed food safety bill. We're finding a lot of people that voted for Obama, finding a lot in common with what we have to say at 10th Amendment Center over this issue alone. And we need to be prepared to receive it. Is there any more important thing than what we put into our own bodies? And to give control over that to anyone else is in the front. So we need to remain vigilant. We need to be aware on all fronts. We need to all be activists, use the weapons that we have, and talk to each other, and welcome those that may not necessarily have all the same viewpoints that we do, in recognizing that in this battle, with a threat as large as the centralized federal government, we're all on the same side. Thank you very much.